Lois Lane is Power Girl and Clark Kent is Power Man? Just what is going on? Well, it's another classic Lois Lane gets powers story. Lois getting powers is a staple at DC Comics. It dates all the way back to the Golden Age, with the caveat being that sometimes it's kind of imaginary or a dream, but then there are also times when she full-on gets powers. It varies, but the whole Lois Lane is Superwoman thing, whenever they bring it back up or have her get powers again, it's a deep cut, a reference that goes far back. And Superwoman is usually the name that she's given when she's getting powers, although there are exceptions, and we've covered a couple of them, such as Krypton Girl, and today we're going to be covering Power Girl, and this makes her DC's first Power Girl. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and it's time for a deep dive into Lois Lane's psyche, and a story that you can tell is going to be unhinged right from the opening. So the story we're looking at today is Lois Lane's Super Dream, and it comes from Superman number 125. It's written by Jerry Coleman, with art by one of my favorite Lois Lane artists, Kurt Schaffenberger. This issue is from 1958, and as you can see from the cover, it's also the issue where Superman gets a strange new power. He can shoot tiny miniature versions of himself. This is a classic that makes a lot of weird Superman powers lists. Also, this is the issue that has the first of the Untold Superman tales, with a story about his college days, so overall fire issue. Now, as for this story, it has a very similar premise to the first time that Lois Lane became Superwoman. That was in Action Comics 60 in 1943 in the story Lois Lane, Superwoman, succinct, to the point. In that one, Lois dreams that she got a blood transfusion and the blood made her super. The blood is from Superman, that's why she's super. And the setup here is mostly the same, but the dream is quite different. I'll link the original video so you can check it out, but we'll touch on it a little bit at the end of this one. For now, enjoy the madness. While Superman is patrolling Metropolis, he sees Lois Lane falling off a building, so a typical Tuesday. One day, as Superman patrols Metropolis,
"Great Scott, trying to sneak a scoop, Lois fell off that narrow ledge. I'll rush her to the hospital."
What was going on at the science fair that warranted such sneaking? Also, Lois has fallen from greater heights and not gotten as injured. Superman's slacking. Now at the hospital, Lois in her semi-conscious state believes that she's getting a blood transfusion from Superman, but she's coherent enough to have a thought balloon with an explanation that means that people can't write in as to how he could have given her blood because of his super durable skin. She thinks that he must have used his own fingernails to open the vein to give her the blood. That's super dramatic. I don't think I want to read the rest of Lois Lane x Superman's fanfics. They're veering towards vampire territory. Now in reality, Superman went and got her some of the rare blood type that she needs, but now she dreams that she has superpowers, and Superman hangs out, ostensibly to see if she's okay, but also to kind of eavesdrop on the dream. Now because she has powers, she decides she's going to become a superhero and help Superman. Since we've played with this premise before, this time she's not going to become Superwoman, but Power Girl. What does Lois do? See for yourself, as in her dream she embarks on the strangest adventure of her career. That's a lie. This red wig will conceal my identity. When I take my secret role of Power Girl, only Superman will know I am Lois Lane, girl reporter. I will find him now, and together we shall combat crime and aid the world. Wig life! Also the implication that she's going to reveal her identity. We don't actually get to see that because that's not what this story is truly about. Also, this isn't the only time Lois has donned a wig in one of these. One of these she gets power stories, that is, but this time it's red, and that's why, you know, we gotta match as much as we can. Lois does team up with Superman, and they become quite the duo. The people seem to love Power Girl. So that's not where the drama comes from, nor does it come from any attempted or failed romance with Superman. There's not even a dream romance in this story. No, this story is all about roasting Clark, or rather, Clark as Lois Lane perceives him, so the persona. Not knowing Superman's identity is Clark, Clark gets added into the dream. And when he gets hurt after being assigned a story, she decides to give him a blood transfusion. Cause I guess the superpowers in her blood, they're permanent. It's taken over her blood production. Don't think about that. Dream logic. It's all a dream. So now Dream Clark has powers too.
"Help! Call the doctor, I have some terrible disease. I began to get out of bed and started floating."
You're not floating, you're flying. Look, I am Lois Lane, secretly Power Girl. I gave you some of my blood, and now? I do think it's interesting that she instantly tells Clark her identity. I guess it's because he also has powers, so they can dodge the whole "you can't be with a civilian because it will endanger them" rationale, which is what's being used to keep Lois and Superman apart. But it still just kind of feels like a dig at Superman. You're no longer mere timid, weak Clark Kent. You're also Power Man. You have superpowers.
Good heavens, now Clark Kent has superpowers in her dream. I wonder what kind of Superman he'll make.
Of course, Lois doesn't know that Clark Kent is really Superman, so wear that costume I made for you under your clothes, and when you change to Power Man, put this mustache on so no one will guess that you are secretly Clark Kent.
Gosh, I wonder what it will be like having superpowers.
I love that in her mind, because Clark wears glasses. That can't be part of his disguise. He couldn't possibly take them off, but instead we have this glorious fake mustache that, even though it is of the era, it also looks like a hipster stash, so it's amusing to me just the idea of her handing him one of those little ones. No one can recognize you with a super stash. It's impenetrable. Now, Clark is terrible as Power Man sometimes. At times, it's just Lois berating him and his solutions are okay, but other times they don't quite work. Clark as an identity for Superman is meant to come across as wimpy and unimpressive. It's just lots of things that are meant to signify that don't instantly translate as they once would have, like him having glasses or dodging fights. So here we have Clark as Power Man wanting to do things like have a warning light, so that if there's fog or bad weather conditions, planes can see him. I think that's actually kind of considerate and works with the mindset of someone who doesn't have superpowers. But Lois is having none of it. How stupid can you get? Your super hearing will warn you of planes. Now listen to me. I'm doing a charity performance at the Metropolis Girls Orphanage, so I want you to keep an eye on the testing of a new missile at the Army Proving Grounds.
All right, Lois.
Now, when a missile comes his way during this event, Clark does actually run away, which is a terrible look. Thanks, Power Girl, for these costumes you made for us. We sure feel proud wearing them. Good heavens, that timid, bungling Clark. I'll have to leave at once. Seconds later.
All clear now?
Yes, thanks to me. Come over here, Power Man. I want to show you something.
What are you going to do, Lois?
I'm just proving a little point. Don't be afraid. See, it doesn't hurt. Nothing can hurt you. You're invulnerable, you idiot. From now on, don't be so stupid. Use your brains and your superpowers whenever you meet an emergency, and don't bungle.
I'll try, Lois.
The abuse. I'm worried about Clark. It might not hurt on the outside, but it does on the inside. I'm also curious if she explained his powers to him beforehand, or if she just assumes he's supposed to know. There's also the fact that, in theory, because he got the blood from her and she got the blood from Superman, he could maybe be weaker, kind of a copy of a copy type thing. But that's not the type of story we're in. That's not what the story is for. This is a laugh at how Lois perceives Clark's story. He's tricked her so hard that her subconscious is presenting him like this in the scenario. Now, in the next superhero failure for Clark, I'm not actually sure if it's that big of a bungle. Clark, aka Power Man, now fears Lois's rage, so he's second guessing himself as he comes up with solutions. And when he sees a Mother Goose boat sinking, no, you're not tripping out, that boat is shaped like a shoe, he decides to use his brain, his super brain. So he leaves to get some trees so that he can make some rubber, so that he can make a giant inflatable to come back and put around the boat. It's very silly, but I don't hate it. It feels like a solution they would actually use in this era, but Lois is having none of it. By the time Clark returns, Lois has arrived on the scene.
Step back, Power Girl. I'll save them with my giant life preserver.
Put that ridiculous thing away, Clark. It's bigger than the whole pond. Didn't you realize that all you had to do was look at it with the full force of your X-ray vision? And all the water would evaporate into steam. No one can drown in a pond without water.
Gosh, I never would have thought of that.
Forget the potential ecological ramifications. Just evaporate that water. His solution's actually better. It was a bit too big, but the idea was good. Why don't you have a super brain to go with your other superpowers? Next time, don't do things the complicated way.
I'll try to remember, Lois. I'll try to stop being super clumsy, super timid, and super stupid.
Even in a dream where he's not Superman, if it's not super, he's not doing it. See, this is why Power Man is not as good of a name for him. You can't put power in front of these phrases. I'll stop being so power clumsy, power timid, and power stupid. This actually makes me feel really bad for Clark. Lois has such a low opinion of him subconsciously. I guess the only way he has any merit in her eyes is if he's Superman. That's depressing. Never tell her, Clark. Is there anything Clark can do? Can Power Man stop a flyaway ball thrown by some children from hitting a window? Yes, he can, but he lands so hard that he causes the house to collapse. Yes, Lois's dream picture of Super Clark is far from flattering. Moments later, you superpowered oaf. To save one window, you destroyed a brand new $20,000 house. You'll have to pay for the damage, every cent of it.
Yes, I'll pay you back, but please just stop shouting at me. The super hearing, all my powers, help.
And when Power Girl finally finds Power Man, Clark, what are you doing?
Washing dishes at super speed. I figure if I keep getting jobs and using my superpowers, I can pay off my debt in 2 months.
That's no way to waste superpowers. If you need money, all you have to do is dive under the ocean and recover some sunken treasure. Then you can devote your powers to better things. Working for your money and planning how to pay off your debts? Pfft, just pillage the ocean. Steal the treasure, give it to the guy and let him figure it out. How much treasure is Power Girl Lois hiding? Does she not have to work anymore because she just has a stockpile? Does Superman know this? This culminates in Power Man trying to go and stop a fire, but when he goes to change, he accidentally changes in front of a whole bunch of people. Because he does it in a department store window, outing his secret identity.
Clark Kent, reporter on the Daily Planet.
On the Daily Planet? At the Daily Planet. Good heavens, Clark changing while thousands watch him in Stacy's window? He can't even be trusted with the secret of his own identity? I better fly off with him. And do what? The dream ends. I think she killed Clark. Also, why were there so many people at the Stacy's window? It just had a mirror display before Clark started changing in front of it. After that, Lois awakens and proceeds to berate real Clark. Somewhat later, Superman changes his identity and visiting Lois as Clark listens to her dream. What a flop you were as Superman. You couldn't even protect your identity, and to think how often I suspected that you were the Man of Steel, berating him over something that he dreamed. Accurate. Now this story is meant to be more of a farce, playing with the irony of Lois not knowing Clark is Superman, and so casting him as a terrible superhero. All laugh. The thing is, it goes pretty hard. It veers into mean-spirited territory and makes Lois pretty unlikable. It's really fascinating to contrast this story with the Golden Age story from 1943, where it takes the story more from the stance of what would a superpowered Lois be like, and actually she's quite competent, and also her perception of Clark, while still not glowing, is more based on her viewing him as a shrewd reporter, because he outs her identity for the scoop. It also reverses the tropes by letting her rescue not just Clark, but Superman. By contrast, this story deals very little with her being Power Girl, and instead focuses on her personality as Lois. It does imply that she's a good superhero and popular, she has all these fans and the like, but it also casts her as a cruel harpy. You can see the difference in treatment of the character pre and post Code, Golden Age to Silver Age. Oftentimes you'll find much stronger characterization for the female characters in the Golden Age than the Silver. That's not a firm rule, but it's not uncommon. Now this story has some zany moments that are fun, and I love the Power Girl look overall, but it's not the most pleasant of stories, and it's a rehash of an already used concept that rides the she thinks Clark is a wuss joke into the ground, but I wanted to tell you about it because this in a way is DC's first Power Girl. And it also predates Supergirl, but not the prototype version, the one where Jimmy rubs the magic totem and then wishes for a Supergirl. And funnily enough, when they recolor that issue, which they will, because at the start she'll have blonde hair and have the same kind of coloring as Supergirl will, but to avoid confusion, there'll be a period where she's recolored with red hair and with a costume that is orange and green, and then later they drop that and go back to the original coloring. In fact, there's some confusion for people who have seen the red and green version who think that's the original, but it's not. Also, Lois needs to stop wearing those types of gloves that look like dish gloves while she's fighting crime. She's gonna end up an icon for all the wrong reasons. So that was Lois Lane's Super Dream, where she's Power Girl. And your thoughts? I would love to hear them. What do you think of this story? What do you think of this look? What do you think about Lois as Power Girl? Are we worried about Clark? Please share all your thoughts down below. While you're down there, please all YouTube things like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it. I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.